Hi, I'm James and welcome to a new video using a new camera. I'll see if this makes a difference. Today we're looking at the Filthy 5 by Keith Savage, available for $7.95 on DriveThruRPG. There is a link in the description below. If you click on that, it'll take you straight to it, and it will also give me a little bit of a proceed from that. DriveThruRPG I affiliate to, and anytime you buy anything through my links, or even if you go there through my links and then buy something else, then I actually do get a small cut of the profits at no cost to you. With the end result, I can use it to buy more bits and pieces. So the Filthy 5 then is intended as a one-shot adventure, or possibly an intro to a campaign. It's set in Poland. I can see no reason that it wouldn't work in Sweden. You have to change a couple of names and that would be about it. I have to be honest, I was a little put off by the cartoony artwork on the cover. It jars with the theme of the game to me, but I also see it's appropriate for the adventure. It's a personal thing. I definitely didn't like it for the characters. I'd probably get rid of those, but again, that's not exactly a deal breaker, is it? There's one other comment on the illustrations. It talks about the BMP3, but the illustration is the one from the rulebook of the BMP2. Just something to be aware of. If I was setting it in Sweden, I might even consider using the BMMP, which is the BMP2 turret on a BMP3 hull that is used by the naval infantry. So it's a rather linear adventure, and in fact one of the encounters actually relies on the PCs persuading the NPCs to actually allow them to continue with the adventure. If they don't, there's not a lot really you can do with that. So it's not ideal in that sense for me. The scenario is basically based around a group of 5 PCs who have been found guilty of crimes they didn't commit. Some of you may recognise that phrase. And in between buying it and doing the review, Keith has upgraded it and has actually put in a system to generate your own PCs with crimes that they didn't commit. Nice little touch, which I thought was quite good. And the scenario starts with the team being escorted with some other prisoners in a convoy as the 5th Division is overrun. At this point, the vehicles are attacked in an ambush, and this is perhaps one of my issues with the scenario. If you run it as it is in the book, you are going to have a problem where the NPCs will actually shoot each other. The ambush is on both sides of the road, firing horizontally, so there'll be a lot of overshoots hitting the team. If you do want to know more about how to run an ambush, I've got a video in my tactics section. I'll put a link up in the description. Please feel free to have a look at it. If you go to that, it'll show you how to do a better linear ambush. It does have the advantage running it like this, that the end result is there's more chance for the PCs to loot weapons. I think what I would probably do is give them more of an opportunity to loot in the convoy area itself, and put all the enemy on one side of the road. That's just a personal thing. I also would probably change it. You've got 3 with RPG 16s, and now the RPG 16 was actually quite a rare weapon. It was only used by the VDV, the Soviet Airborne. I would change them for RPG 7s. It makes absolutely no difference to the scenario. It was one of the faults I noticed in the game when it came out, that it did use the RPG 16 way too much. And based on the principle, I probably don't want the players getting onto too many weapons early on. I think what I would do is actually replace the initial RPG hit with an IED, So you use an IED to take out the lead vehicle, probably have 2 RPGs fired into the rear Humvee, and then you can actually run the ambush pretty much as it is. It's a minor thing. I am just a tactics person. I mean, I teach it in the cadet force, so I always want to make sure that tactics are done right. So from there, the PCs move on to the next location, which is hopefully a non-combat encounter with the Polish resistance. One of the characters does have a link to them to make life a little bit easier, and it's winning the Poles over to trust them to go along on a mission which initially they don't actually even know about. I think I might try and just do something in there to try and sort of warn the PCs that that's what could happen. We then get on to the main part of the adventure, which is the heist. The PCs are basically going to try and sneak into an old disused bunker and make off with what loot is in there. It's a good way to, having started them with nothing, giving them a basic set of kit. It was a very cinematic way of getting in there. It requires the group to sneak in, taking out guards one by one. Yeah, they then encounter the cache. Now the cache was very strange. For some reason there were FNCs in there, which I wouldn't have thought were that likely. I'd probably rejig the stockpile a bit. It doesn't take a lot to do. One thing to watch for if you are rejigging, it does give the players a BMP3. What you need to consider is the fact that with the Polish NPCs and the PCs, 10 people is the absolute maximum that can be carried on a BMP3. If you change the BMP3 for something else, make sure there's enough passenger space in it for them to get out. Or perhaps go for 2 vehicles, that could be an alternative. There is then a chase sequence getting out, and again it's very, very cinematic in style, with the players being chased by a number of UAZ 469s with the Marauders manning them. Yeah, it wouldn't be to my taste, but it's nothing radically wrong with it. There's some new weapons in the scenario, some odd choices, but one touch I do particularly like is the fact that Keith has actually created brand new cards for them, so you actually do get cards for them. I don't use the cards, but I know some people who do. So some of the weapons I said were a bit of an odd choice. The Atchison AA-12 fully automatic shotgun. Yeah, there's nothing actually wrong with that, I suppose. One little point of useless trivia, it's got different size magazines. Only the 8-round magazine will fit in the players' pouches if they're wearing webbing. Anything larger and you can't actually fit them in. Switched on players might acquire things like claymore bags, which are ideal for carrying them. You've then got the Stechkin, the APS, which was a Russian attempt for a fully automatic pistol with a stock. It was a bit of a failure in real life. It was intended for people like drivers and things like that. Once the AKSU 74 started coming in, that did start to die out. It was popular with Spetsnaz just for its small size, but even the manual recommended firing it in the prone position using the shoulder stock. So I would suggest if the shoulder stock isn't used, then reduce the rate of fire. Sorry, and the rate of fire goes above 4, reduce the hit chance by 1. I think that would just tie it in nicely. I'd also look at the query the stats for the VP70M. This was capable of fully automatic fire when using the stock. We couldn't fire without it. However, while it had a very high rate of fire of 2,000 rounds, that only really applied in short bursts of 3 rounds, because that was all it would fire. So I would probably reduce the rate of fire to 4 for that. But it was nice to see some new weapons in the scenario. There was a lot of material in here. What did I think of it overall? I think it's going to depend on the players. For me, it's not something I'm probably going to use in any major depth, simply because it doesn't fit how I want to run the campaign. As a one-off, it would probably work quite nicely. It deals with all the encounters, you get all of that. You don't get any of the wilderness crawling, but it would make a good little one-shot at a convention perhaps. It could also work for your group, depending on the number of players and where you want your campaign to go. So yeah, if you want an adventure that's very cinematic, it would be high on the list. If you're not one for a cinematic approach, then probably less relevant. Hope that's been useful, and I'll see you soon for another review.